Hey, Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, Kentucky Education Commissioner Wayne Lewis resigns, fulfilling a key campaign promise for Governor Beshear. Matt Bevin pardons. They include some shocking convictions, and a Kentucky judge may face impeachment. All that and more is next on Hey Kentucky. Welcome to Hey Kentucky. Alongside Josh Corman tonight, we have like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's a wide variety. The beauty of this show, you can cover a lot of ground.
In 30 minutes, we're going to go from pardons to Christmas cookies to
that's right.
Who knows what. We're going to start with education. Kentucky's Commissioner of Education, Wayne Lewis, has resigned following Governor Andy Beshear's overhaul of the State Board of Education. Despite a pending legal challenge to its authority, a newly appointed Kentucky Board of Education on Thursday forced out the state's education chief. Here's what Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman had to say about Lewis's resignation.
This was the fulfillment of a promise to put the kids of Kentucky's public schools first, and it was done in a civil, amicable way, just the way that these things should be done. And I'm looking forward to working with this board.
Lewis was required to receive written notice of his termination 90 days in advance under his contract with the board. Lewis accepted an earlier exit and will walk away now with 120 days salary and health benefits after nearly 3 hours of closed-door negotiations. Josh, I guess I'm a little surprised it happened so quickly, but we knew Wayne Lewis was not going to be sticking around under Andy Beshear.
Yeah, once Beshear got in the door, that relationship was probably not going to continue. And, you know, Jacqueline Coleman in part is the lieutenant governor because of her education background. And I think, you know, so Beshear definitely put that front and center. Obviously, teachers played a huge role in the conversation about Governor Bevin and Beshear in their race. So, you know, the public education advocates, I'm sure, are glad to see the backside of Mr. Lewis.
There are actually far more educators on the board now than there were under Governor Matt Bevin, which is, you would think, a good thing.
Yeah, as a former teacher, one of the things we always kind of lament is the people who make the policies and write the rules don't necessarily have a lot of that classroom experience, aren't firsthand in schools necessarily a whole lot. The more of that you can get in any decision-making board, the better.
And this probably stems the tide of charter schools, at least a little bit, I would think.
I think so. If you're a big advocate of public education, you want that front and center, this is a good thing for you.
All right. Well, during his last day in office, Governor Matt Bevin issued hundreds of pardons, and we now know that those pardons include one with a murder and rape conviction whose families donated to Matt Bevin's campaign. The family of a man who was pardoned for a homicide and other crimes in 2014 raised over $20,000 at a political fundraiser last year to retire debt from Bevin's 2015 gubernatorial campaign. The brother and sister-in-law of Patrick Brian Baker also gave $4,000 to Bevin's campaign the day of the fundraiser. The two other co-defendants in Baker's case, well, they still remain in prison. They didn't get those pardons. Commonwealth's attorney Jackie Steele, who prosecuted Patrick Baker and other defendants for the 2014 death of Donald Mills, told the Courier-Journal on Wednesday it would be an understatement to say, "I'm aggrieved by Bevin's pardon." Other pardons include one offender convicted of raping a child, another who hired a hitman to kill his business partner, and a third who killed his parents. Now, Josh, I think that the governor's pardons, and for every governor, I think that that's, you know, a good thing typically, and it's something that every governor does.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's people with really harshly long sentences, nonviolent drug crimes, stuff like this. But these really stick out. I mean, the guy that was convicted of raping a 9-year-old just went to jail last year.
Yeah, we've talked about this with Governor Bevin before, the substance of what he does and the optics of what he does. You know, no matter the substance, the optics sort of have almost always looked bad for whatever reason. And this is another one of those things where, I'm not saying the justice system is perfect. Like you said, pardons serve a purpose and they can be valuable. But this is a lot of scratching the head and a lot of wondering if, like you said, those other two co-defendants are in jail, the one who donated money to his campaign or raised money for it, you know, isn't. That does not feel good.
And my feeling is the victims' families
I can't imagine.
Can't imagine their feeling, because of course they weren't consulted or had no idea that any of this was happening. Just it gets thrown on them.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
All right, let's go back to education. During his gubernatorial campaign, Andy Beshear promised to give every public school teacher a pay raise, but the new governor comes into office facing significant obstacles on this key campaign promise. The newly elected governor promised Kentucky's public educators a $2,000 pay raise once he was elected. When asked if that was realistic, Beshear told reporters, "Watch me." But state budget officials expect Kentucky's new revenue to fall over $1 billion short of its new spending obligations, such as pension contributions, state prisoners, and Medicaid expenses. The deadline for Beshear to submit his budget proposal to the legislature is January 28th of next year. Josh, this one always sounded good to me. I was unsure of how that was actually going to happen.
Yeah, in the same way that teachers love the idea of educators making policy decisions, they do love the idea of actually being paid, well for the job they're doing. And I agree. We'll see, I guess, what the difference between Beshear's proposed budget and how he might propose to raise some revenues to offset some of that. I hope it happens because teachers deserve it, Lord knows. But yeah, it's, everybody wants it to happen and would agree teachers getting more money is a good thing, but the how and the when and all that is a tougher sell.
Especially if you're not going to be able to get gaming through or something like that, which could bring in some extra revenue. But if that's not going to happen, I don't see where this money comes from initially.
Republican legislatures and a Democratic governor are going to have to work together if that's going to happen.
Well, let's say about that.
Good luck.
Sticking with education, according to data from the Kentucky Department of Education, Kentucky's parents are getting less interested in participating in school councils. Now, Kentucky is the only state in the nation that has basically moved major control of its schools from locally elected school boards and instead transferred those powers to a school council established in virtually all the state's regular public schools. The theory was that parents elected to those councils, their interest in the schools would improve, but recent data shows that's not the case. Statewide data shows the vast majority of parents aren't involved in school councils, and those numbers are dropping over time. And Josh, I'm not really that familiar with the school council part of it. I know PTA numbers are going down as well.
Yeah, and people maybe don't understand the number of school level and even district level decisions that are made with the influence of these site-based decision-making councils and school councils. It's huge. It's like all politics are local, that old saying. If you want to change the way that things happen in your school and you want to affect public schools in a positive way, getting on these councils is a huge part of it because so many of the decisions that govern what a school does happen at that level. Maybe people don't realize that or don't think they're qualified to step in. They shouldn't think that. They should get involved. It will make your school a better place.
And listen, I get it. So many people work and they work crazy
got time.
hours.
Oh, yeah,
and
time for
the
sure.
time crunch feels like a lot, but it is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
Turning to football, the early signing period is less than a week away, and the UK coaching staff has been busy trying to shore up its commitments. Monday night, Stoops and company visited the home of quarterback commit Bo Allen from Lexington Catholic, and he wasn't the only commit there. Isaiah Cummings, who was recently named Kentucky's 6A Player of the Year, joined them, all rocking the Kentucky blue. Shortly after that, Drew Phillips' mother shared a picture of Stoops and defensive coordinator Brad White in their home in South Carolina. And Eddie Grant and offensive line coach John Schlarman visited four-star lineman John Young in Louisville. The coaching staff is still on the road, hitting recruits in Ohio. They made a stop in Michigan to check in on Kentucky's top-ranked recruit, Justin Rogers. I mean, this is the depth that has happened because of this staff, and their recruiting inroads has been phenomenal, and this looks to be the best class yet.
Yeah, the continuity on the coaching staff, such a huge part of that. The recruits get familiar with these guys. They want them to be there to help them develop when they get to school, and they've been able to keep Vince Marrow and stick some of these guys who've really killed it on the trail. And they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Could show me a harder working football staff right now. I can't imagine being in more places at once than these guys are.
It's why we pay the big dog the money. We
Yes.
pay the big dog the money to eat and get these recruits, and he's
Lands
done
them.
it. All right, now to our weekly feature on Hey Kentucky, What's the Beef? Brought to you by the Kentucky Beef Council. A Northern Kentucky family court judge who is accused of running an office with sexual affairs, alcohol, lies, and revenge could now face impeachment. Judge Dawn Gentry could be the first judge to be impeached in the state in over a century. Kentucky Representative Adam Koenig of Kenton County says he plans to ask the House staff attorney to research details of impeachment, and that lawmakers in Frankfort think action needs to be taken before the judge's misconduct hearing, which is set to take place in 2 to 3 months. And that's tonight's edition of What's the Beef? Up next on Hey Kentucky, Christmas is right around the corner, so we sent Kathleen Smith to Williams-Sonoma to get a crash course in decorating those Christmas cookies so we can up our cookie game. Stay with us.